scenes, okay?
We're close enough to be conjoined twins. Look at that.
Yeah, we are. We can put our arms together. You know how they're born with arms together? Okay, let me do this.
It's politically incorrect to discuss such things.
Okay, let's not
I wouldn't want to
that,
offend anyone, Michelle.
Okay, welcome to Coffee is for Closers. Today is episode number 46, and Ross really wants to be close to me. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, who wouldn't? I mean, you're a genius and successful and driven and everything that a future mother of a child would want.
We'll do his introduction in a second, but let me do the intro to the show real quick, sure. Okay? So welcome to Coffee is for Closers, episode number 46. Yes, that means we have almost done this for a whole year. We're almost to week 52, and it's an honor to be here with you today. We are talking about a very important subject that I'm sure a lot of you deal with on a weekly basis, and it's really about how to network with influencers. Maybe you're going to live events, maybe you're going to industry events, or maybe you're just going out to the local bar and you want to know how is the best way to network. Well, we have a very special guest today right here on our bonus episodes called Coffee is for Closers, and it's with Ross. So can you please introduce yourself to everybody?
Well, yes, I am the living legend, the man himself, Ross Jeffries. I am a master communicator, master hypnotist, practitioner and trainer of neuro-linguistic programming for over 30 years, and in my amazing book, Subtle Words That Sell, available on Amazon.
I just got it.
Oh, have you started it yet?
No.
No, okay, that's good bathtub reading. Anyway, in my book, Subtle Words That Sell, I tell you how to get your prospects to convince themselves to buy without pushing, pressuring, or pitching.
So it's kind of like my sellwithoutsleaze.com.
I have a little sleaze to me, as you know, but yes.
Okay. So today thank you for the introduction.
Oh, of course.
Today we are talking about your cup of wisdom. We are talking about your best pickup line, because I think you were also a pickup artist or something like that. But we're going to save the dating stuff for a different show. Today is all about business and pickup lines when you're at an event, at a networking event, how to stand out from the crowd. How to keep cool with the big names. So, like, what if there's someone that you really want to meet at an event and they're kind of a big deal and you're intimidated? What happens?
Intimidated?
Well,
what is that?
Some people might be intimidated.
Only you intimidate me, sweetheart.
Oh, God. Real celebrity connection story, because I think you have one. And then we're going to remind you guys of all of the challenges that we have going on. But again, what is the main goal for this month, which is to go to at least one networking event, maybe two. And just like Shamika said a couple weeks ago, we want to go to one that's maybe 2 or 3 days long, because you make a different type of connection with somebody. So that is what we're talking about today.
I'm ready.
Okay.
Bring it.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I would like to know what you think about your network is your net worth, and how has that impacted your life? Because I truly believe that you are about, the 5 people that you hang around, how your attitude is, your income level, your perspective on life. Right? Can you share that with us?
I would absolutely like to share it. My perspective is a little bit different. My perspective is, first of all, that connection is cash. Communication is cash. And that rather than it being about network, and I'll try to address the question as you frame it, my most important connections have been with my mentors and teachers. I've had just a few mentors and teachers without whom I would not be in business. One of them was the guy who taught me how to write copy. I write all of my own copy. Without that mentor, I would not have made a penny. So if you're going to go and you're going to network with the people who can give you wise counsel, not advice. This is a great little piece of wisdom I want to give you, is that winners seek counsel. People who don't win look for opinions. So if you're going to network, pick out the person who you admire the most. When you can take envy, turn it into admiration, take that admiration and turn it into connection with a mentor, then you're really going to move. Because often, Michelle, when we're not where we want to be and we look at other people, we're filled with envy. When you make the conversion in your spirit to admiration, then you can look for the connection to that person who can mentor you, because people who've succeeded are eager to help those who truly are coming and looking for guidance.
It's very true. So can you give an example? Because what you said was pretty, that was a lot for someone to probably take in.
Yeah.
Can you give us a real life example that actually explains what you just said in a story that relates to you?
Yes. So one of my number one mentors was the late, great Gary Halbert. Gary Halbert, in many people's opinion, was the greatest copywriter of all time. And Gary was the mentor who taught me how to write copy. Now, Gary I didn't just take one of his courses. Gary took a shine to me because Gary thought I was full of, can I say? Yeah. Thought I was full of bullshit with my pickup chick stuff. But he liked my style, and he liked the fact that I appealed to him. And I told him that at some point, I said, Gary, I think you're boring as batshit, but you have a lot to teach me. And that really got his attention. I don't recommend you communicate in that way with someone you want to mentor. But one of the key things I say is you want to approach people and connect with people in the style that is a pattern interrupt. Because think about it. This will get to the next question. And I don't want to bridge too quickly to the next questions.
It's okay.
But if you're someone who's really well known, like for example, people say to me, well, how did you get started doing this stuff? And I'm so tired of that question. But when you interrupt someone's pattern by asking them a question that's unusual or different, or you just say something that's unusual or different, then you get attention. Because pattern interrupts create a momentary window of suggestion through which you can form a deep connection to someone.
That leads to our next question.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So what is the best pattern interrupt if you are going to a business networking event? And also we're calling it not a networking event. I had a different name, but it's now slipped my mind. But instead of like your elevator pitch, you're basically doing what we call at the Pitch Queen Empire, a brand shake. Okay. So you're shaking hands with people about your brand. But what do you think is the best pickup line, or AKA pattern interrupt, that
first of all,
being an entrepreneur can help you with?
First of all, I don't do pickup lines, whether it's in my personal life with someone whom I'm deeply attracted to, or whether it's someone, don't make assumptions, whether it's someone in the business world. Instead, what I want to do is to create a connection. Right. And in order to do that, I want to be sincere, I want to be genuine, and at the same time, I want to create curiosity. So I would walk up to someone, I would treat everyone equally, because there are no big names. There are no big names.
Everyone's equal.
I don't know if everyone's equal. There are no big names. There are only vast opportunities. I want you to get that reframe. There are no big names. There's only vast opportunities. So I would walk up to that person and I would introduce myself, and I would say something along the lines of, I really admire your work and I admire your mission. I am just curious. How did you first discover that this was the passion that even today you continue to grow into? Listen to the question. I didn't say, how did you get started? Right. I said, what was your moment of discovering that this is the passion that you want to grow into? When we ask people about moments of discovery, particularly moments about discovering passion, that's not asking for data. It's what I call a deep dive question. I'm very serious about this. Don't deal in data. Dive into consciousness. When you ask people what I call deep dive questions, first of all, it's a pattern interrupt, because it's not what they're expecting. But the very nature of that question, Michelle, if I said to you, what was your moment of discovering this passion that you have, this mission that you have that continues to grow to this very day, it would require a different kind of answer than how did you get started? How did you get started calls for a narrative. Right. But the question I ask calls for an exploration of consciousness, which as a hypnotist, I always have an orientation towards. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense. So for me, if you were to ask me that question, I would have to go dive deep into my head to come up with the answer that is not what our traditional question is. Correct. That you get 95% of the time, which is why I think a lot of people, including myself, absolutely hate going to networking events, right? Because you get asked the same boring question,
Exactly.
and then we're trained to give the same boring answer. But one thing came up is that you can actually answer it with the way that if you listen to the question, we hear how you said it. Like where did this passion come from? Or,
I didn't say that.
Well, you didn't say that,
But
but
and the other question I might ask is, I asked you this question. I believe that the best way to connect is to get genuinely curious, really
Right.
genuinely curious. And I said to you, I don't know if you recall this, it was off the air. I said, look, you're really, really successful. And what was your influence? What was your model for being so successful as an entrepreneur? I really sincerely wanted to know. Do you remember I asked you that question? You probably don't remember, but I asked you that question.
vaguely.
I did ask you that question.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would answer that, which gets a different answer, which
Right.
makes the networking process of your brand shake, like what we talked about last week, slightly more interesting and
Yes.
more fun.
Yes.
Which means that going to these types of events makes it a lot better. So I would say that my passion came from this domino effect of all these accountants that I keep helping and seeing their businesses grow. And just knowing that they're like, I'm just in shock that a lot of them haven't learned a lot of things we talk about here on Coffee is for Closers, and that if I can just dive deeper, then their revenues will increase, which means they're helping more people. And now it's like, okay, you get excitement from the person you're talking to.
Now, you just revealed a lot about yourself. She's also a very good hypnotic responder because she used the very terms I use, deep dive. See, she just repeated it back. So
Hypnotic response.
your unconscious likes me. No, I'm serious. I'm not joking. We'll
I
talk
listen
later.
well.
You do listen well.
Yeah,
That's a sign.
That's another important.
Listening well is the sign of someone who is completely fascinated with the person who's talking. And that's really great, isn't it?
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
Okay. Next question.
Okay, bring it.
So that was the version of the business pickup line.
Right.
Okay, real quick, for everybody watching on any of our cameras in front of us, do you have any questions so far for Ross that you would like to
These cameras.
put in the comments below? Questions are good. Isaac said hello, well said. Or, what's the number one thing that you're struggling with when you go to one of these networking events?
Me?
No, not you, them.
Oh, for me, it's keeping the fanboys away. God. I'm serious, Michelle. I get all the time people, oh my God, you're Ross Jeffries. I read your book and I got my girlfriend from reading your stuff. It really is funny.
That's awesome.
I
But
made
we're
some
not,
business
this
connections.
is not
I
the
know,
dating
I
show, okay?
understand. Yes,
All
Mom.
right. Yes, Mom. I always love it when Russ is here. You might have to start being a resident guest.
I would love to be a resident guest. Just get me a cubicle here and tap me when you want.
Okay. So continuing, if you have a question, please put it in the comments below and we will answer it because we love questions. So what about standing out?
Put in the comments in right below me, right there.
Right there. Okay. Can we get back on track?
Yeah,
Okay.
of course not.
So how, from everything that you've experienced and everything that you know, what is the best way to stand out in a crowd? And I already know where you're going to go with this, but how do you
No,
really
you don't
sell
know
your,
where I'm
I
going.
know, but how do you really set yourself apart from the crowd? And also, what's the best way to have someone remember you?
Okay, I'm going to draw on the wisdom again of my mentor, Gary Halbert.
Okay.
Gary Halbert said, well, Gary's dead, so you'd have to get a channel medium to meet Gary, but I can refer you to his newsletters. Gary was amazing. He was a giant. When he walked into the room, the air got sucked right out of the room. Gary said, don't be afraid of offending the dogs, just be interested in attracting the foxes. It was a metaphor. But
You're going to have to explain that
okay,
one.
essentially, you have to have your own style and you have to know who it is that you want to attract. If you try to be like everybody else, then you're just going to, there's no reason for people to choose you. I have my own style of communicating. It's very deeply brilliant, but it's a little bit edgy, and you sitting there and never quite sure where I'm going to go. Like, okay, let's keep the leash on Ross really tight because it's my show and he's a strong personality, et cetera, et cetera.
That's
So,
okay.
but I'm a polarizing figure. There are people who have told me, I don't want you at my event because you offend people. I've been told that. Then there are other people who go, come on, bring it. Anyone who doesn't like you is welcome to get up and walk out. So I think that you have to have a sense of who you are. And my mother taught me something. My mother said, one day I was sassing her, Michelle, and she looked at me.
What does that mean?
Giving her guff,
Oh.
And I was 6 years old. I remember she shook her finger at me. She said, kid, you don't knock it off. You're going to grow up to be an iconoclast. I said, what's that? She said, that's someone who goes around kicking over other people's sacred idols and ideas. I said, yeah, I want to grow up to be that. So you don't have to be an iconoclast, but you have to accept that some people are just not going to like you. If someone has a problem with you, they own the problem, and that's it.
So if someone's at an event, just to recap this,
Right.
okay, and they want to leave a memorable impression and stand out in the crowd, what?
Don't try to make an impression. We covered this in the last one we did.
We need a refresher. We need a refresher.
Try. It's not about making an impression. It's about letting the other person have the perception that they're understood
Right.
in a way that's much deeper and more profound than other people have done. And that's easy to do. Just ask a different kind of question.
And be a good listener, because being a good listener will leave the memorable part that they were heard, because most people don't feel heard.
Right, I would say that, but also it has to do with listening for what I call people's personal transwords or people's personal buttons. So we'll get to that another time. I picked up some of yours, but I'm not gonna reveal.
That's for a different show.
I know it's for a different show.
So when we have Ross here, we have to really keep a tight leash because he likes to go off track.
And you're using my term, tight leash. See, your unconscious mind likes me. I'm telling you. For real.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've had a lot of training, so I know
What?
Sales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand that if we reuse your words, that's also very important, and it makes sure that we're listening. Anybody have any comments or questions about how to stand out in a crowd at an event? Again, I think it's like what Ross said. You need to not leave an impression, but actually just be a really good listener so that they feel really heard. And then it just is a natural progression from there.
Almost what I said. What I said is ask the kind of question that will require a response from the deeper part of the person's mind. So instead of asking, how did you get started? You said, what was your moment of discovery that you had this growing passion to do this mission that you're still on today? You're laughing at something. I am not privy to it. What are you laughing at? Eric!
I'm laughing at the comments.
Eric. What is Eric saying?
The comments are hilarious.
I love it.
Okay.
My man, Mr. Awesome.
Mr. Awesome,
We love
Isaac. Yeah, he said, Ross, you rock. How long have you both unconsciously been dating? He's missing a word.
I don't know. I'm turning red thinking of the question.
Eric, it's not happening. I just don't know why you keep asking us that.
We're officially denying it, right?
Yeah,
Officially,
on Facebook Live.
Officially, it's being denied.
Yeah, it is. Okay, but if anyone has any questions about this coming from a place of deep curiosity,
Yes.
asking questions that open up a different part of the
This is something
unconscious mind,
this
right?
is something I love talking about. I created a bonus that I call the Curiosity Code.
Let's talk about that.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? We can make that a different episode. I'll send you a copy of it. But I believe that learning to be deeply curious. So here's what you can be curious about. I talk about the 3 C's. There's where people find their sense of connection and or contribution.
Okay.
Because we all want to feel a sense that we're connected and that we're contributing to something larger than our own personal gain.
Agree.
Then there's what people are creating in their lives. People who are worth getting to know are always looking to create or construct something bigger than what they currently have.
Oh, that's me.
That's you. You're a creator. And number 3, the third topic is cravings. What are you craving in your life? So those are the 3 C's. So if you talk about those 3 C's, you're going to get a lot more interesting answers, and people are going to give you a lot more information or responses, both verbal and nonverbal, that you can utilize. Often people do what I call personal trance anchors. They'll go, well, and when they go, well, that's just an example. That's the sign for their unconscious to begin to access all this stuff. So later in the conversation, I would go, well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Let's exchange information. I'd fire off their own personal trance anchors. This is really advanced stuff.
This is advanced. Let's go back to the basics.
Okay.
So we have our 3 C's. What are 3 questions that everyone listening today can maybe use for each of the 3 C's? So 1 question example per each C. That comes off top of your head.
They're pretty similar. Like, I would say something like, I learn a lot about people by where they find their sense of contribution and connection. So I'm just curious.
I love that question.
I'm just curious. When you stop and think about where in your life you are making a contribution larger than your own personal gain, where would that be?
That's a great question.
I know.
Okay,
That's exactly the kind of question. That's exactly the kind of question I would ask. For example, on a date, I wouldn't say, what do you do, and why do you like it? It's a boring question.
Totally.
Second question, it has got to do with what people are creating. What are they constructing in their life? So I would say, I find that the people I love to connect with, and I gesture back and forth like this unconsciously, the people that I really like to connect with. When you look at someone who you recognize is worth deeply connecting with, they're always creating something. They're working on something that really just grabs your passion. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
Completely.
That was like when I met you.
Yeah. Really, what? I grabbed your passion or you grabbed mine or what? I don't know. Both. Yeah, I know.
I was like, this guy's interesting.
I know. You see, Eric, you're right. So I can't read his question. What did he say? Seriously, you're what?
He said you were brilliant.
I know.
Personal trans anchoring. Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So I would ask, I'm just curious, where are you finding that sense of what it is you're creating? Because I learned so much about people. These are the people who I draw into my life. I'm very serious about that. And the final question about craving, that's a personal question. That's, you don't ask that to someone in a business context.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So we'll stick with contribution and creating. And we'll save craving for a different show.
We don't have to talk about that on the air, darling.
Okay. Sounds good. So this is all really great stuff, you guys.
Can I give you a sincere compliment? You cannot be rattled. I love it. I'm doing my best to rattle you, and I can't.
No, I can't. We are focused.
I admire that. I do. I really do. I'm not on my mother's sacred memory. I really admire it. You're strong.
I'm strong, and we've got to focus. Because there's people here who's laughing at us right now because it's hilarious. Yeah, and Isaac thinks you have a captivating tone.
I do?
Yeah.
Well, Isaac, thank you very much. I do.
Okay, back to the original program.
Sure.
Ian, this is for you.
Yes.
So, Ross.
Yes, ma'am.
Some people go to events, okay, myself included. But I see people as
we should network together sometime.
Yeah, we will.
We definitely should go to events.
We are going to go to an event together. But anyway, there was a big event I went to in San Diego with a lot of digital marketers. And Damon John was the keynote speaker. And I wanted to see him again because I really want him to be a guest on the Wednesday episodes of Success Unfiltered. So a lot of people will say, well, how do you meet the big names and how are you cool with that? Or, how, and a lot of people get starstruck. They would never do anything that I do. But with all of your education in areas that I am not privy to, how do you get past the starstruck phase and connect with bigger names when you go to an event? Like, what does somebody do?
I will absolutely tell you. And here's an answer that Eric's going to love because louder? Wow, that's a really unique answer. I exercise what I call compassion confidence.
You have good words.
I know. I'm quite the word spinner. I started my career. That's a story to tell you off the air, how I got on TV shows.
Okay.
Talking in sound bites. But here's what I mean by compassion confidence. I look at that person who's successful and powerful. It really doesn't matter to me. I look with compassion confidence. And that's simply a recognition that we're all in the same boat. What were you wearing the moment you were born, Michelle, what were you wearing? This is
I was wearing my birthday suit.
What was I wearing? Same
You were
thing.
wearing your birthday suit.
What was Damon John wearing?
His birthday suit.
One day, something I guarantee is going to happen to all of us. And what is that going to be?
We're going to get old.
Yeah, but something else is going to happen.
And we're going to die.
We're going to die. In between it, we're trying to figure it out. Now, some people are further on the path in some ways, financially. Some people are further on the path emotionally or health-wise. But we are all human beings. We're subject to the same gravitational forces. If you drop the two of us off a building at the same time, we're both going to hit the ground at the same time. That's Newton's law. Mm-hmm. Fundamentally, we're all in the same boat. When I look at someone who appears to be in a higher position than me, I don't think I've got to meet them or I know I can meet them. I come from a place of compassion. This I'm not joking about. I recognize that we're all in the same boat. That's what I do. And then from there, I get genuinely curious. Yeah. People approach me a lot. I was joking with you about that, but I do have fanboys all over the world. And when I get approached, I'm always very humble about it. I'll sit with people and talk to them. And I'll always say the honor is mine because you're putting a roof over my head and food in my cat's dishes, et cetera, et cetera. Generally speaking, if you approach people this way, they're particularly successful people. They're pretty humble and are happy to give you advice. That's what I have to say.
I completely agree. So you believe that the solution to having the confidence to walk up to the bigger names in their eyes, okay, their eyes, not ours, but their eyes, we see them as equal and that they just, are on a different path. We have compassion, confidence.
Right.
And make that happen. So what if someone needs like a baby step to get to the compassion, confidence?
Absolutely, positively, the most important thing in my life is a meditation practice. I meditate and it's transformed who I am as a human being and in my experience what it means to be human and what it means to be kind even to people. It doesn't matter whether that person has something you want or they're frustrating you. We're all still in the same boat. So that's the first thing. But the second thing I would do, thank you. Second thing I would do is to ask the kind of question that breaks the pattern of what they're expecting. Yeah. And requires them to make that deeper dive into consciousness.
So what would you ask Damon in my example?
I would say, how come you're not as well dressed as I am, buddy? No, I would say, listen, I've watched you on Shark Tank. You're obviously very successful, but what has impressed me is you have this desire to mentor people. So I'm just really, really curious. Did you have someone who is compassionate to you, who helped you along the way? That's what I would do. Because by asking that question, there's a trick to that question. You want to know the NLP trick?
Yeah.
In order to have that memory, he has to call up the feelings of compassion himself,
right.
His desire to help other people. So it's creating a sort of hypnotic state in him of wanting to help. It's a trick, but much can you learn from me. Oh.
Ross even has different voices. We never knew he was a voiceover.
I can do Gollum. He's different than Yoda, though.
Well, thank you for that example. That is a great example, again, coming from a place of deep curiosity and then also a captivating question that he wasn't expecting going into a time where he was actually being compassionate, which then will trigger the, maybe I can be compassionate to this person on an unconscious level. Yeah. Ooh, this is good stuff.
Nasty tricksy habits. We taste the precious for ourselves.
Okay, so
I know you're starting to like me.
Yeah, I do. You're really awesome. I think you're like a genius,
what?
And a lot of other people think you're a genius too because you have compassion, confidence. Mm-hmm. So, can you give us a real life story?
Yeah.
Of, going to an event or you have a real life celebrity connection with somebody when let's just choose the best one. Okay. The just one. We have time for one story today. We can save all your other ones for all the other ones.
It wasn't an event. It was in the real world.
Is that world is okay? Great,
so I was on a flight.
Daily event.
So I was on a flight flying first class from Los Angeles to London. And sitting on the row next to me was one of my all-time favorite actors, Nicolas Cage. Nick Cage is a big guy, by the way. He's like got biceps the size of my legs. He's a huge guy. And he said, he noticed my Green Lantern ring. He said, is that a Green Lantern ring? I said, here, dude. Yeah, sure. You want to put it on? So he examined it, and then he said, that's really cool. And then we started talking about comic books, like who could beat who. Could Green Lantern beat the Hulk? And what about Superman versus the Hulk? And could Spider-Man take Wolverine? By the time you know it, we were sitting there talking comics, and I just treated him like an everyday human being. I grew up in L.A., and in L.A., you see celebrities all the time, and you ignore them. You don't approach them. The only time I ever approached a celebrity starstruck was Neve Campbell, because for 10 years I lusted after Neve Campbell. I tried magic. I tried manifestation to meet that woman. And one day I was having breakfast, and I walked by and went, holy jumping Jesus, it's Neve. And I said, Miss Campbell, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am. I just wanted to say I'm a big fan, and shook her hand and like slinked off into the corner to finish my breakfast.
So wait, you didn't ask her a question of curiosity?
No, Neve Campbell fried my brains.
Okay, let's talk about your airplane ride, and what did you guys talk about?
We talked about comic books and Superman, and at the time I think he was considering up for consideration to play Superman, and that's basically what we talked about. And we talked about that. I saw a couple other celebrities, a lot of them actually. I was Tom Cruise, of course, played me in the movie Magnolia. He did. He really did. I don't know why you're looking at me skeptically. I swear it's true.
Okay.
He did.
Okay, explain it.
The writer and the director of that film, Paul Thomas Anderson, one day he was listening to a recording of some sound engineers, and they were complaining about women, and one of them said, well, Ross Jeffries would say this. And he thought, who's Ross Jeffries? He began to research me. He thought, this would make a great character. So
awesome.
Yeah, you didn't know that about me?
Nope.
Totally true, but I never got to talk to either one of them.
Oh, man, that's a bummer.
No, it's great publicity.
It's great publicity for sure. So to sum it up, for people that might want to reach out or meet a celebrity for their company as a face, or maybe even to reach out if they have a product-based business, which I know some people here do have a product-based business and they want them to showcase their product, right? What if they don't have the opportunity to ask them a curious type question like we've given?
Always have. I don't accept that. You always can create opportunities. I do not accept that. If it were not for the fact that this was not a dating show, I would talk to you about opportunities, like when I was near death, literally near death, and being able to create romantic connections. I'm not joking, from a hospital bed. There's no excuse. Look, you only live once. The greatest lesson I learned spiritually, motivationally, and I'm not joking now, I'm being dead serious, is watching my beloved father, who to this day is one of my best friends in my heart. I watched him pass from this world. I watched it. I was there with him at the end. And I had the opportunity to look at the shell of my parent. Mm-hmm. And I never thought I would actually see the shell. It never even occurred to me as a concept. That's the shell of my father. He's not in there anymore. I recognize game over for him. Everything that he strived for is gone. And that was a lesson to me. You better make your opportunities, because the clock is ticking for all of us. For some of us, there's not as many ticks as for other of us who have a lot more ticks. But for real, think about that and create your opportunities. I say this to my students. If you don't know what to do, take a bold and even absurd step forward. I mean this. Never underestimate the power of boldness married to absurdity. Boldness married to absurdity can do amazing things. Yep. And I'll leave it at that. Because if you're serious about this, you're dead. Seriousness is a quicksand. You can be thorough without being serious. I'm going to coin something right here, right now on this show I've never said before. Seriousness is quicksand for the soul. Yep. How do you like that? Coined. That's my gift for you.
It really is. It is quicksand.
I made that up on the spot. You inspire me, my dear.
Yeah. We're going to get all sorts of stuff here once a month with you.
Seriousness is quicksand for the soul. You can be thorough. That's my other mentor, Richard Bandler, the co-creator of NLP, taught me. You can be thorough without being serious. So seriousness is quicksand for the soul. Add bold with being absurd.
And one of my best friends,
an
Monique.
absurd thing would be if, like, I asked you out on the air right now, so I wouldn't do that. But that would be absurd and bold.
Correct. That would be. So my friend Monique, she's a comedian, and she always ends her acts with, I don't really know how it goes, so don't quote me, but she says, get your heart as happy as you can, as fast as you can, and, because laughter makes you happy, and you have to change your physical state. But
that's true.
That's true. So get as happy as you can, as fast as you can. Because then there's something else that happens. Lolita to somebody, and, it's about, like, dying.
We'll
but
have to have her.
We'll have to have her recite it. I should really know it because I've seen her, like, 1,000 times. I should know the closing of the act, but... Yes, thank you so much, Ross.
It's my pleasure. Remember my book, Subtle Words That Sell, available on Amazon.
Yes, Subtle Words That Sell. I just got it the other day, but I was in Maui, so I will read it this weekend.
Please do.
And I'll bring it next time Ross is on the show, so you guys can all see it, and we'll put the link in the show notes as well, so you guys can get that. And thank you so much for being here. If you do have questions, wow, that's really motivating. If there's questions, we'll hang out a little bit longer. Any questions for Mr. Ross? Maybe about, the one thing that you're struggling with getting your name of your business out there or what you do.
I know how to do that. I certainly know how to do that. No questions. Cool. Everyone's intimidated by me.
No, they've asked, but I just can't scroll too fast. There's so many things over there, over here, over here.
Talking about multitasking, darling.
Yeah, we have like 5 cameras, and then we had LinkedIn going, and then that only lasts 10 minutes. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to sign off.
Have stock quotes here, I see, or something. That's GarageBand.
That's
right?
the audio.
That's okay.
So if you have any questions, please do put them in the comments below. I will get to them later. And if you have a question for Ross, put it down below. I'll email it to him. He can answer it, or he can just comment on his own.
Put your questions down below me, and we'll take care of it, okay?
Down below. Right there.
Right.
A new program called Dance for a Cause someone created.
Dance for a Cause. Okay. I could put my marketing mind to work on that. It would take me like 5 minutes, which we don't have. But Dance for a Cause,
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for joining us here on our bonus episodes of Coffee is for Closers. It was an honor to be here, and thank you, Ross, for joining us, as always.
Always a pleasure to see you, my dear.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Wow, that's fun.
So
Swanson
fun.
loves our on-air.
He does.